Junkie Nation, what's up? Gorgeous George and Goes, always delivering the big stars. Cody Garbrandt, former UFC bantamweight champion, joins us here on the program. What's going on, Cody? How are you?
What's going on? Man, I love the names. Gorgeous George. That's awesome. I haven't heard that one. That's great.
My,
But it's good, man. We're good.
I wish I could tell you that. Oh yeah, like the someone on the homecoming court gave me that nickname in high school, or some chick on the road, yelled my name. It was actually my high school football coach, history teacher / history teacher that gave me that name, and it was just his way of remembering names and whatever. I don't know. I think you get a lot further with no
He gave
love.
it to you in high school?
Yeah, he gave it to me in high school.
Yeah,
Yeah,
here it is.
yeah,
Still rocking to this day. I love it.
yeah. All right, so Cody, it's been a while since we spoke, and I wanted to congratulate you on the win earlier this month. I think somehow maybe you just got swallowed up in that whole, hey, John Jones is back, he's great, he's the greatest of all time, blah, blah, blah. But let's not forget the guys that have worn gold like you, that have put in their time, that have delivered great fights as well. And so I'm glad we get to catch up here. Congratulations on that last win. I'm sure it was a big relief after being gone for a little bit over a year.
Yeah, I was about 16 months removed from the octagon, and I did a whole move from Sacramento, California to Las Vegas, Nevada. New team, new coaches, so there's a lot of adaptation on my end, and a few injuries I had to overcome, and I had 3 fight camps. I was supposed to fight Rani Yahya 2 different occasions, and he pulled out 2 weeks before both fights. So it was just nice to get in there and get back in the octagon. I've been working so hard to get there, and it was just nice to be in front of a sold out crowd in Las Vegas at the T-Mobile, and got the win and excited for the next one.
Trevin Jones, you defeated him, and you did it earlier in the year. And so now usually what shows like ours and others will probably ask is, because it's early in the year, what does your 2023 look like? I'm sure there's some time you want to make up. I mean, you're still young, man,
Right.
31 years old, and you've accomplished a lot. Everyone is anticipating, what the next run could be like from you. So what do you see next for you, whether it's in 2023 or however you want to tackle it?
I just texted Sean Shelby yesterday. He hasn't responded back, but so we'll have to get on them. Junkie Nation, hit him up on Twitter and Instagram. But I like to fight International Fight Week. My birthday is July 7th, so the fight's July 8th. So it'd be great to weigh in on my birthday, fight the next day, get a big win. I saw Rani Yahya is slated to fight, I think, in April. It's so if he wins, hopefully he can fight in July. That's something that I look forward to, fighting him. He's got a lot of records in the bantamweight division, riding a 3-fight win streak. Probably the best grappler in our division. So I like to test my skills and grappling skills against him. And it's already been 2 camps that I was supposed to fight him. And like I said earlier, before we jumped on, that he pulled out twice, 2 weeks before the fight. So that'd be, my ideal fight, July 8th. But, whatever Sean Shelby and Ali Al-Aziz wants to do, in the UFC. But July 8th is what I'm targeted for.
It's an exciting division with a lot of prospects. Do you ever feel like maybe because of the time you've been away, you get lost in that shuffle, because you got Cejudo coming back. He's with Aljo. Peter Yan, obviously just dropped the fight to Dvalishvili. And then you got Yanez and Font and Ricky Simone. And I probably left out a few. Are you ever like, yo, man, again, I'm still young. I got these hands. I come from a wrestling background. Who wants this? I'm not done yet.
Yeah, not at all. This sport's so fickle. One big win puts you right back into the top. So it's good. Like I said, I moved and I got new coaches and teammates, so I'm working with them, developing my skills. And my last fight was great with them. It was a lot of unknown, from the warm-up, from the camp, to how they structurized everything. Dewey Cooper's an amazing coach. Chase Pammy brought him in as a wrestling coach. I'm still finding that balance and mix of what I need and what I would like out of a training camp for me. So coming out here has been nice, in a sense of a way that I can focus more on myself and what I need for training, and obviously specifically for the opponents and adversaries that I'm going to face. So I'll bring in, a couple of training partners that will mimic them, and the coaches that have, been in the trenches. Dewey's been everywhere: boxing, kickboxing, MMA. Chase has been at the highest level internationally, wrestling on the wrestling team. So getting that in and just seeing where I fit and what I need for obviously that fight camp, and then in the off season we call it, just grinding, staying sharp, and using those skills to jump into a fight camp. 6 to 8 week fight camp and be ready. So I mean, it's great. It's a great division. There's a lot of good, exciting matchups for me to inspire me to keep working hard. My goal is obviously to be the best in the world. I know, and I truly believe myself that I can. And I've been through a lot, on the career side, personal side. So I'm just, excited to be back in there getting a win. Trevor Jones is a tough dude. He took that fight. He's got some super tough knockouts. He knocked out Timur. He knocked out Batista. The guy has, like the equalizer. So he had to go out there and do what I had to do to get the win done, win and go from there. So I'm just excited to be back in the win column, and hopefully July, we just keep this, momentum going and just keep climbing back to the top.
The guys that you used to get looped up with a lot, TJ and Dom, they're in the latter stages of their career. I guess TJ even retired or who knows what.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what do you look at now when you look at the top? Do you look at Aljamain Sterling, or do you not even care who's there? You just look at the top spot with a belt and a bag of money.
Yeah, that's great that you asked that question, because I think that when I was coming back or was going through that little skid or lost the title, that I was looking at, I'll get back to the title, instead of moving forward. I was just thinking about this, get this win, get back to the title. Now it's about, improving as a martial artist, and getting better and getting these wins, and, the right opportunities, right fights will present themselves, and just, keep working like I always have, and understanding that, life's a marathon, not a sprint. I might have gotten to become a world champion in under 2 years of being in the UFC at 25 years old, but prior to that, I was 10 years in the making, something that I dreamed of. So, it was, to the naked eye, it was always a quick jump started, career to being a, UFC world champion. But I've been dreaming and working towards that for over a decade. I just got into the UFC and was able to do it under two years. So for me, it just to understand that life's a marathon, not a sprint. And just for me, I just want to stay healthy. That's the best thing that for me is stay healthy and stay busy. So I like to fight in July, hopefully go in there, get a big win, and then hopefully fight before the year's up. So 3 fights would be great. I mean, in 2016, I had 4 fights in 1 year. So that was like the most I fought in the UFC for. But I like to stay busy. That's what I like to do. And, I'm working hard with my coaches, developing a lot of skills, putting the martial arts formula together. And it just feels great to, get a win, be somewhat healthy, and be able to back to train.
Someone in that you just have some nicks, nothing major, or because you are saying you'll be ready for July, so it looks like you've avoided anything major, right?
Yeah, anything major. I've been having this neck. I've had, disc issues since the Kai France fight, and I ended up getting next. I got injections in May, and then a week and a half before the fight, injured it really bad. Got a bad stinger. I lost all feeling in my neck all the way down to my hand. So I ended up getting nerve blockers 6 days before the fight. Whoa. And then the day of the fight, I ended up doing the shakeout, the morning shakeout, and the last takedown ran it down, gave myself a stinger. So I lost all feeling again all day leading up to the fight. Couldn't feel my left hand. So I was like, man, I just need to go.
This last fight or the Kai France fight?
Oh, this last fight. Yeah, this last fight. I was at the UFC PI. I mean, it was fun to everybody too. So who knows who's in there can say, oh, he hurt himself. And, going into the fight, I had literally one hand. And then the second takedown, I took him down. That's why I didn't throw much in the end of that second or the third round, because I had no feeling in my left hand. It was completely gone. I had, I was just keeping my hand raised so I wasn't, getting hit with shots. But, I knew I was up 2 rounds to nothing. That's why I didn't get caught with anything. And also, Trevin wasn't pressing the forward. He wasn't coming and throwing any punches, so it was hard to counter him or draw anything. I mean, he wasn't the speed and the elusivity that I had on my feet. He didn't feel comfortable letting loose either. So, it was a hard fight for me to counter or get some kind of reads off him because he was not wanting to engage in the fight. I had the speed and the elusivity and obviously the strength and the power over him. So he was just, I felt like he wasn't really pressing forward and letting his offense go to where it would draw out a counter. So I had to do what I had to do. Like I said, in the third round, I just, kept busy, kept moving. And, now I just got MRIs today. I just left the place. I was there getting them for a few hours. So hopefully they come back. We have kind of a plan of attack. Like I said, I was speaking with Bio Accelerator in Colombia to do some stem cells. I'm trying to avoid surgery at all costs. Been reading into a lot of stem cells. I actually have had stem cells a few times throughout my career, and I'm responsive to that. My body, responds real well to stem cells and injections. Like the back, I went to Germany and got my whole back injected with regeneron therapy over there in Germany before I fought TJ. I tore my back and went over there, and that was a long process. That was almost a year out of just rehab. I was just trying to get back to being able to be mobile. That really set me back a lot after winning the title. So like I said, I don't want to sit idle. I want to stay active, stay in the gym, and stay healthy. So hopefully that we can get a quick fix to this. Hopefully the stem cells work out, and obviously I have great physical therapists, Project Wellbeing, everyone at the UFC PI. They have the hand on me and get me in the right medical direction that keeps me healthy and just ready to go.
Wow. I'd probably have a panic attack if half my body didn't work.
It
That's
was tough.
incredible that you were able to push forward. I noticed you said you didn't lose feeling in your legs. You still were able to do the shuffles that you do.
Yeah, the legs were good. It was just
Now that explains
hand.
why you weren't able to do the popping, because I
Yeah, I
guess you
couldn't move
weren't
the
able to
arms,
get
so I
the
was moving the
feeling.
feet. I was trying to draw something out of the guy, you know what I mean?
Oh, okay, I got you.
It's just trying to
So
draw
that's why
some
you
kind
were
of
shuffling.
yeah, just trying to draw a reaction out of them. Someone's swagging on me like that, I'm gonna try to hunt them down and take their head off, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I
That
would do.
explains it.
He would just I don't think that he had an answer for the speed and the elusivity on the feet and the footwork. A lot of people, see the hand speed like, oh, he's really fast, but my feet are what get me in and out, defensively. So I think
Yeah.
that's another big thing. Like if you can't hit someone, it's tough, so you're not going to be able to want to let your hands go. And getting back to the footwork and movement, like I did against Cruz, like I did against Sun Sound. He's a very hard fighter to look good against because he's so defensively sound. He doesn't really get drawn out of feints, or he stays defensively sound. So until he wasn't, in our fight. But just getting back to that, like for me, it was the feelings of being back in the octagon, being present. I worked with a sports therapist, Micah, at the UFC PI. Just been unengaged a lot in the last few years, and he taught me how to, just be engaged and with the present. So that was a huge thing, being engaged, even with everything going on with the neck injury in the morning of the fight, walking down to the fight with new coaches and teammates, and kind of letting them dictate how I warmed up before the fight. Like it was all new. I'm like, hey coach, like how we running this warm up, how we hitting pads, how we drilling before. So it was nice. It was all kind of new, but so that is like fast paced, because you're trying to get your mind. You're so used to doing this for the last 8 years with Team Alpha Male, how we did the shakeout and the warm up before the fight. So it almost made me feel like I was like having my debut again. Like I was going out there 0-0. I remember those, like when I was, going out there like, oh, it's all new to me. So it was exciting. And I was like, all right, cool. Just take it in. And, going down there, it was still like one of those feelings of, oh shit, like a couple of times kind of lose that focus, that engagement. And then just, like I said, working with my my therapist on how to keep engaged in what's present in front of you. And that's my game plan, what I'm supposed to do. Hey, okay, this doesn't go right, work on this, keep engaged. So that's what we worked for the last, I've been working with them for about a year now. And that's been great, just the mental aspect of it, the mental side that we don't really work a lot. We can go in there and always be ready to fight physically, but emotionally and mentally, it's it's a lot. It's a lot we go through. We're still humans at the end of the day. We still are faced with everyday human problems that present itself, and just like the injury the morning of the fight, that was, man, my mind, it crossed my mind right away when that happened. Like, I'm gonna have to pull out this fight. Not gonna be able to fight. And I sat back, reassessed it. Today let's dig deep. Let's just go home. And I was gonna get some PT work done. I was like, you know what? I don't even want to get PT work done. I want to get it out of my mind. I went and meditated at home. And then, a couple hours later, the driver came, picked us up. obviously it's still in the back of my mind that it's there, that, I'm injured, that I'm going to this fight, maybe 50, 60%. But, at the end of the day, it's never going to be an ideal situation when you're going into a fight. There's never going to be a time where your adversary is standing across from you in the octagon with his hands down saying, go ahead and just hit me. That's the most ideal time to fight, is to go punch someone right in the mouth when they're not, when they're letting you. But this guy trains hard, works hard, and everyone that fights me is coming out with their A game. They're going to give me their best because they're fighting a former world champion,
Right.
make a name off me. And in the past, I didn't give a shit about that. I'm like, who cares? A lot of the fights I just go to, and I was so unengaged. Like, all right, well, let's hope for the best in this combo or this strike. And hey, sometimes it worked for me, sometimes it didn't work for me. But that's not being engaged. And I don't think my passion and love was subsided from and distracted from other things that was going on in my life. And I didn't know how to really cope or change the channel, in my mind. So that's what I worked on a lot, was mentally. I don't think that anything I've done in the past of my fights, I always train hard. I'm always one of the hardest workers in the gym. I'm super talented, God gifted with extreme ability. I'm very thankful for that. So I'd always go back to the gym like, man, what do we do wrong in this fight? Let's add this. And it's the first time that I worked on the mental side of my whole entire life. And it just paid dividends outside of my career and my everyday life, me becoming a better father, being more engaged on things that matter than that don't matter. And then just, I love fighting. I truly do. It saved my life. It's given me purpose and redirection in my life when I needed it the most at a young age. It's something that I always had the gym to go to. Sometimes I'd crawl back to the gym. I needed the gym more than it needed me. And I've always was reminded, growing up in that, lifestyle, that I needed the gym. So it's good to just have that, and still learning. I'm gonna have a therapy session on Thursday each week. I go every Thursday once a week, and this hour with him. But the tools that he teaches me and shares with me, I'm doing every day. So I think we don't speak about it as much because we're these ultimate warriors. But mentally, man, if I feel like anyone that's watching this, the Junkie Nation and everyone across the world, if you're going through things, like, don't be afraid to go to talk to someone or seek out professional help. I wish I would have done it years ago, but we're here now, looking forward for the future, and just excited.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I was actually going to ask you something kind of along those lines. I was going to ask you if it's difficult to separate Cody Garbrandt the person and Cody Garbrandt the fighter, or do they feed off of each other?
It's funny that I never ever looked at myself as two different identities. There's a time and place where obviously I have to become that fighter. I got to flip the switch, and that's walking down to the cage and being ready and going and fighting someone. But for me, it's always I'm always who I am. This is me. I'm raw and real. I feel, wear my heart on my sleeve. I say what I want to say, whether people like it or not. But I think for me, it was a hard time was to balance everything. I became a father. I was a world champion. I was doing so many things in my life. But I bought my first house, got married, in the span of all one after another, and then having a big injury and just, and so many things it was so fast paced at life that I couldn't really sit back and like grasp the concept of what was really going on. I was kind of living in like just, idle. I was idle across my life. And that was tough to do. I want to be super present for my son. I didn't have a father growing up, so I don't want to miss any time with my son at all. So I would go to the gym, come straight back home, be with my son, need to put some maybe extra PT work in or work on this, work on that. And finding that balance, was huge when my son was first born. I was obviously getting ready for defend my title as a world champion. That's all I wanted to do, was defend that as much as I could. And just being, unengaged with things that's going on in my life, personal life, being a father, defending a title, being a world champion for one of the largest organizations in the world at 25. So, it was a lot, but that's where I'm at now. I'm 31, much more experience in life, and more experience as a martial artist because of those learning lessons that I had, prior to being a world champion or after being a world champion. I still have the love and passion for it. I'm still here. I still, believe that I'm the best, and I'm just, scratching the surface, I feel, as a martial artist, putting it all together. I wrestled last fight, I use a lot of my kicks. I use a lot of patience and, gears, we call it, the Cody, you have a lot of gears. A lot of these guys don't have 12 gears. They may only go up to 7 or 8. You have 12 gears. Sometimes you don't have to go from 0 to 12. You can go 0 to 6 and keep working up to where, they're not able to match that pace or the speed or the rhythm. So I understand, like, all right, sometimes I don't have to be all 0 to 100. I have these gears that, working on them, calming down, relaxing, getting data. So yeah, just working on that. That's my thing, is become a more complete martial artist, but also just all around better human. And just, I'm happy where I'm at and where I'm going to be coming.
Cody, could you say that your division is the best division in all of mixed martial arts right now?
Honestly, I think so. There's a lot of skilled fighters in there. I mean, gosh, look at the top 10, top 15 in our division. It's amazing. And then you have, like the Bastrop brothers. He just had his debut. The kid he fought was really tough. That division is so stacked. I think now, just as a whole, martial arts is evolved so much and continues to evolve. So it's great. I'm happy to be in this division. I can make 35 and make 25. So there's a lot of options for me. But I feel really good at 35. But I truly believe that our division is top to bottom, one of the most talented filled divisions in the UFC.
I co-sign, by the way. It is nuts, man. Even Bellator had an 8-man Grand Prix, and they had some good fighters, including Patchy and Raytheon, who are in the finals.
Right.
But across the board, man, 135 is insane. And
right.
I hope you guys get the payday that the boxers get, because all those guys that made a lot of money, like Pacquiao and Floyd, yeah, they finished out at featherweight or junior lightweight or whatever, but they went through lightweight in boxing, around the 125, 126, all the way up through the 130s, 135s, bantams, junior welterweight at 140, all that. And they've put on some shows over the years, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
so I hope that money starts to get matched, because you see a bantamweight on the card and you're like, I ain't getting up to get you a beer or myself a beer. I don't want to miss anything. I got to see every single second of it, because you guys are all over the place. In fact, for a while, when they used to keep stats, when stats first started coming into play, bantamweights were knocking out at a higher percentage than featherweights. And it was usually heavyweight over light heavyweight over middleweight, all the way to, it was a trickle effect. And for some reason, bantam was knocking out at a higher rate than featherweight. So
I never understood that, the pay. They're paying the heavier weight fighters more than us. I feel like, man, I watch some boring ass fights that are in the heavyweights. At least the 35 guys, they got cardio, they're conditioning, they have speed, they have power. Like you said, we're knocking guys out. Like for me, like I feel really good about going into a fight against a guy my weight, be able to knock him out. Right. So hopefully the pay comes. Just I got to keep doing my end of the deal and just performing and fighting and staying busy and staying healthy.
Cody, I wanted to ask you a question. A name that was brought up earlier, Dominick Cruz. I've thought about this a lot. He was a very dominant champ that will probably eventually be a Hall of Famer.
For sure.
But whenever you see those types of champions, when their time comes and they lose, it's usually a quick knockout or something like, GSP, what happened with him, Aldo, Vanderlei Silva, Anderson Silva, right? Yeah. But you, that night, absolutely picked that guy apart. And I wanted to ask you, what do you feel like was the key in all that going into that night? Was it film study? Was it just you being in a zone? You just seemed like you were one step ahead and you were unstoppable, man.
First and foremost, I have to, give a huge thanks for my team to get me ready, Team Alpha Male and all those guys. For me, it was just in a flow state. I was like, wow, I've dreamed of this for so long. This is something that literally was an image in my head that saved me from, drugs and alcohol and bad paths that I could have gone down. But I had that, picture and image of me being a world champion. And, that's who was Dominick Cruz. He was the champion at the time when my card was pulled. And I just was on the flow state. So for me, I just took everything in. I'm like, man, it's my first world title. I'm going to just enjoy it, like not get too psyched out on the media and the press and what was going on with the build up to the fight. I was like, man, you only get to fight one time for a world title, your first world title. So I just taken it all in. That whole week was fun for me. I was in a good place in my life. I think that's what it boils down to. I think if you have everything kind of just all your ducks in a row, I feel like when you go into these fights, it should be just, having fun in there. I think that's what my last fight too was, obviously with the injury, I was, a little cautious and safe, but in the Cruz fight, I just felt like I was, I feel like my soul elevated and I was kind of like playing my own self against him. I could see everything, that was going on. I guess if that's how I can break it down, I just felt always a step ahead of him, and what really made me super confident going into the Cruz fight was the day before day of weigh-ins. We kind of got into a little scuffle in between Dana, and I saw the way his body moved. You know what I mean? Everyone told me he's like a matrix, he's like a ghost. He moves in and out, and I saw the way that his muscles were firing and the way he was moving. I knew, and you could see in the interview or see in the video that I was like, oh, you're too slow. I could just tell that there's no way that he's going to be able to match my speed and power inside the octagon, just the way that he moved in front of me. That's the first time I really seen him that close to me. Seen it. We never did sit down interviews beside each other or anything like that. It was always separated. It was always in a different room. It was always far away from each other. So that night I slept so comfortably and confident. And I was like, wow, I said, man, I just can't wait to get my hands on him now. I seen the way he moved. So that told me a lot about the fight that was going to be the next day. Just stay calm, don't get hit with anything, get caught with anything, because he's very unorthodox, the way that he throws his punches, the way that he moves. And, I knew that he's tried to steal rounds with like defensive wrestling, gets takedowns at the end when we get backed against the cage. So that's why I kept pointing to the middle, and he kept following me to the middle, and I like kind of fighting off the cage. I like using that cage as kind of a buffer skill to get him to corral my opponents, to get them thinking that they can come forward, and then counter them. But every time I kept getting the ring generalship on him, I kept pointing to the middle of the cage, and he kept coming to the middle of the cage because I knew that's where he wanted me to be to take me down. And then also for myself in the fight, setting a precedence of, I might miss with the first 2 punches or 3 punches, but I'm gonna get him with the third, fourth, and fifth. And that's what happened early on. I missed with, 1, 2, but him with a left hook, right hand. And I knew that, those punches were going to hit, those punches were going to work. It might, have to miss a few punches to get him. I understood that, has good movement and awkward movement. But I knew where he was going to be for the, the third, fourth, and fifth punch and the combinations that were going to land. And also, letting him know that I'm a very good wrestler, that he's just not going to steal rounds with, the takedowns and the movement. So knowing that when I took him down, kind of rode him out a little bit, and I defended his takedowns too. So it was a good fight, man. He's a legend of the sport. It was a great night for me to fight such a masterclass performance against one of the greatest bantamweights to ever do it. And it's great. He's still out here plugging along and doing his thing. It's funny, Ali hit me up the other day and was like, hey, would you like to do a Dominick Cruz rematch in July? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I have nothing against Dominick. I have a lot of respect for him. Not that I didn't prior to us fighting. I have a lot of respect for him, and understanding of him. We've had a lot of conversation. We run into each other at the PI, and we've been doing PT on this, tables right beside each other. So I mean, that night it was my night, and I feel like any night against Dominick Cruz will be my night, for sure. Getting back to that, anyone I fight, from here on out is just, I'm learning the skills of, obviously being a martial artist, but the mental aspect, the mental side, and being engaged, not overlooking, I'm going to get to this fight, I'm going to get to the championship, one fight at a time, one fight at a time, like I've always done.
Man, this is fascinating stuff, Cody. I'm like on the edge of my seat here, finding some stuff out. I can't wait to go back to see that weigh-ins just to see what you were talking about. But other things that popped in my head. Are you okay on time? We've taken a lot of your time up.
Yeah, I'm good, man. My son's down there watching Sonic, so he's good.
Okay. So when you've ran into Dominick, has he ever so much as maybe not said it exactly like I'm about to say it, but just some form of props, like, bro, you styled on me that night. Like,
no, that's not Dominick.
You know what I mean? You really had his number. And look, respect to Dominick because he's done it to so many. I think eventually it just happens to everybody. But have you guys ever chatted about that? Or
no, he's never given me props of, whooping his ass that night, but we have the mutual respect. I remember the funny thing that you bring this up, I end up, in LA, I got beat by TJ and I injured my hand in the fight. And I see Dom, I'm at the coffee shop. I run into Cruz, and that's the first time I really seen him since our first fight, or since our fight. And he was like, the first thing he said, he's like, I thought you had him. I was like, motherfucker, I said I thought I had him too. You know what I mean? So I just kind of laughed about that. And so we've talked. Actually, I think he fight on the. I ran into him somewhere where we talked for a good long time.
Okay.
I don't know if it was he didn't fight on the December card that I fought on, did he? Oh yeah, he fought Pedro Munoz. So yeah, we actually before the weigh-ins we sat and talked. I mean, that was a good 30, 40 minutes just talking bullshit with each other about life.
Yeah, he was on your card.
Sure. So yeah, that's right. And then ran into him after that. So like I said, I have nothing against him at all, but he's never never given me props. It was a large buildup. I was a young kid that was calling him out, and he didn't want to use my name in your interviews, but he knew that I was a real deal prior to us fighting, and he's smart. He's a great analyst. He's a great fighter. Like I say, he's going to be Hall of Fame. Who knows? Who knows what's happened? What will happen? Down the road. I mean, if someone beat my ass like that, I'd want to try to, get that back, for sure. Yeah. But like I said, July 8th, I'm getting ready for whoever. Hopefully, Rani Yahya. I said it's 2 fights that he pulled out, so I'd really like to whoop his ass just for that. It's 2 fight camps you didn't get paid for. And
okay, so it's a little personal then.
I mean, it's just the way it happened. You know what I mean? Like I was injured too, and I got the same kind of injection that he got in his neck. And still was going to fight. I was going to get surgery after, and the second
arm was numb on fight night.
Yeah, I've been literally 8 months or 16 months out, and then the second fight we were supposed to fight October 1st. He pulled out 2 weeks before the fight, and I had no surgery set for 3 days after the fight. So I'm like, what's the worst thing that happens? I said, I get my nose broken in the fight or something happens in the fight, I'm getting surgery anyways. So when he pulled out, and I got sick again with the sinus infection. So I was like, I'm going to get the sinus surgery, because I had 2 weeks left. I was like, man, I'm already on my drop down on weight. And, talk to Sean, I was like, hey, man, like, I'm just going to get the surgery and get healed up. So, once I get done, once I get healed from that, we'll get back to a fight. And then that's when I found out I was going to fight Julio Arce. And then he tore his ACL about 5.5 weeks out. And that's when we found the guy that I just fought, Trevin Jones. So 5.5 weeks out, we had a new partner, or, new dance partner.
And you said 28. You mentioned it about 10 minutes ago. 28 still an option then? Sorry, not 28, 125.
Yeah, I was like, thinking of boxing there. Yeah, 25. Man, that was the easiest cut I had. This last cut to 135 hurt a lot more than the 25. 25 was a breeze.
Wow.
It was. And so yeah, I mean that's options too. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I like 20. I like 25. I felt good there. I felt really good there. The weight cut was good. I think just the recharge for me was a little bit much. I went to the fight too heavy. I went in there about 155. So I gained, over 25 pounds in less than 24 hours. My body just held on to everything. But, the UFC said, hey, win this fight, you're going to fight for the title, so.
God, it was worth it. Okay.
I was at a dilemma with, I fought Rob Font. Coming right off of COVID, and it was a 5-round. For me, it was a horrible performance. I had a good first round, and then the second, third, fourth, fifth. I was so exhausted, man. I never felt like that exhausted in my life, in sparring and training. And hats off to him. He did his thing, and him and his camp was prepared, and then obviously going down to 25, I had that neck injury too. That really kind of changed a lot of trajectory of how I had to train for that fight. And my neck, and then finding out that I had 3 herniated discs after, because I came out here to Vegas and kept feeling stuff on my chest and my shoulder, and I kept working on my chest and shoulder. And then Heather was like, "Hey, you should go get your neck in. I think it's your neck." And I went and got my neck in. Right, I had 3 herniated discs, and that's when they did the injections in my neck, and that helped. That worked for about 8 months until I heard it, a week and a half before the fight, this past fight. So just got MRI'd again today, trying to see what we can do that is going to be the most non-invasive procedure. But July 8th, man, I'm ready to go.
I'm never going to complain again when I'm coming down the stairs when I wake up and I have a sore heel. after hearing all this? Because sometimes I'm like, oh man, did I sleep? My foot hurts or whatever. But geez, man, you've been through the ringer. All right, let me ask you this last question. We talked about you and Cruz, whether you've met up or not or seen each other. One of my favorite moments of The Ultimate Fighter was the McGregor and the Faber teams. You guys are chirping, and earlier you said, man, if something's on my mind, I say it. And sure enough, as Andre Feely was, kind of giving them the business, McGregor kind of like, it's like a poker game. He puts his chips in, and he said, we'll do something about it. And you go, I'll do something about it.
Right. Yeah, that was
that was almost an ugly skirmish. I don't know if you check out the news or whatever, but apparently Chandler and McGregor kind of got into it. Dana said they got ugly and whatever. So I guess what I wanted to ask you was, have you and McGregor ever crossed paths, and have you put it behind, whatever it was, any animosity from that show?
Yeah, a few weeks after that incident happened, that was like, man, he was just poking the bear the whole time. And Uriah is very non-confrontational, and then Andre and him was chirping back and forth for a good 5 minutes. Man, I'm like, man, someone's got, like, at this point where I'm, it's time to fight. You know what I mean? You said everything you needed to say. It's time to fight. Cameras, no cameras. He's asking to fight, and that's when TJ came. I think it was the first day TJ was on set, and TJ wasn't even there. He's in the back, and it wasn't even me sticking up for TJ because I really never did. I don't dislike TJ. TJ wasn't invited to my barbecue, and I wasn't invited to his barbecue. It was kind of teammates kind of thing. So yeah, that kind of is what stemmed it. And then I was like, man, this shit can't go on. And he kind of like looked toward our bench, and he's like, what do you do? He's like, y'all do nothing about it, in his accent. And I was like, man, and they cut it out, a lot of the shit out. I was like, man, if you're looking for a fight, dude, I said, I'll do something about it. And then it was like just how they cut it. I was like, I'll do something about it. And then pushed him, and I think it's gonna turn into a fight. And then his team came everywhere, and I was kind of like in that blackout zone to get ready, for what was going to happen. But we squashed the beef between me and him. It was just one of those heated rivalries that was going on. And
you said you saw him shortly after, or
yeah, it was like a week or two after. We were at the Dana has a little party at the house. We have came over, and everyone was drinking and having fun. I was actually talking to Dana when Conor walked in. I kind of walked off, and Dana was like, can't be fighting, you can't be fighting on the Ultimate Fighter. He's like, Lorenzo at the time was, in the UFC was like, we love you, dude. We believe in you. I was only at 2 fights in the UFC at that point. And he's like, but we don't care, man. We'll cut you. You go to PFL or wherever. He's like, you can't be fighting like that. I'm like, all right, no worries. So we squashed it, me and Conor, and then, not too recent, when TJ got popped with his shit, Conor reached out to me and was like, hey man, I understand like the loyalty thing and what he was doing. So yeah, it was all good.
Yeah. All right. Great stuff, Cody, and we really appreciate talking to you, man. We're so happy for you with that win over Trevin on March 4th. Amazing stuff. And if you can turn it around and do it again couple more times this year, I think you can get back on track. I mean, I've heard the stories, man. The sponsors, I don't know if they're still with you, but they've been with you over the years. They like you. You're just one of those types of people that a company can get behind and promote, which means to me that it probably transfers over in terms of like you can be big business if you get on a roll and you're threatening to win a belt for the UFC. It's just what we've always heard behind the scenes, and we hope you can get back to that. I thought it was. You came in with that young man. I wish I remembered his name. I'm sorry I don't.
Max Maple. Yeah,
yes, you came in with him, and then winning the belt from a great like Dominick Cruz the way you did, and like I say, and then you had the gangster moments telling us about the pump room fights back in the day.
Yeah.
You came to our studio in Mandalay Bay. This stuff behind the scenes on Tough, all great stuff, man. People love them some Cody Garbrandt, and so do we. So anyway, we wish you the best, and thanks again for the time.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it so much.
All right, take care, Cody. See you.
All right, guys.